Hello, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you? Nice to meet you.
Meet you. Feel lighting in the room.
Oh, thanks.
Here with Madeline Blair from Chicago, Illinois. How's your day?
I'm good. I've just been working, lots of planning for so many different things, but otherwise, I'm doing well. How are you today? Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. I'm good. I'm good. So talk about yourself. So you're a poet. You're a filmmaker. You just started this new magazine. So is it based? So it's based out of Chicago, but it's
hmm
like international. Can you explain that?
Yeah. So I went to college for creative writing. I went to University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. I graduated 2 years ago, and I mostly was doing like big things in film for a couple years. Had films go to film festival, did screenings, stuff like that. But I joined the lit community in Chicago about a year ago, and I was really impressed with a lot of the publications that were happening. But I noticed most of them were Chicago based in terms of like submissions for the most part. And I wanted to sort of fill a niche and have something that was sort of themed around work that I feel like was important to share at the time. So Sabr Tooth Tiger Magazine is like, Sabr is the Arabic word for patience, but it's kind of like a steadfastness and a sort of like resilience through hardship that I thought was really interesting. And it's a double entendre with the saber-toothed tiger, which is a really cool prehistoric animal. So I wanted it to be open to anyone in the world. And it's been really incredible so far. Big feat for sure, especially with having a full-time job, but it's been very rewarding. So it's been very cool.
Can you name some of the publications or events that you went to while you were a filmmaker and thinking about going into the lit community?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a couple acquaintances that ran sort of a house show music series called The Apartment, and they for once had one with poetry, which I thought was really cool, with a press called Raging Possum Press. So I went there and I was talking to the person that was collaborating running the event. His name was Sam. That's the founder and editor in chief of Raging Possum. And they're a super cool sort of like punk underground. They like to support a lot of Chicago music artists and short story writers and poets. So that was the big one that drew me into the scene. And then there's a lot of like Test Literary Series is a good friend of them, that it's sort of like you go on stage and you read something that you're still workshopping and they'll give you live feedback in the audience, which is cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Written on a Napkin, which my friend Tori runs. Which is a reading series every month where she'll have sort of a lineup of poets, and then they'll do kind of like a Q&A in the middle, and then also an open mic. So it's very like community based, very collaborative, which is cool. And they do a zine every year, starting last year. So this is going to be the second one. But anyone that read that year, they're allowed to submit their work and then get published. So I was in the one from this year, which is or last year now that it's 2026. But yeah, so there's lots of cool things. And Sabotka Literary Magazine, they just accepted my poems into their next issue, which is very exciting. I don't know if they're international or just national or just Chicago based, to be honest. But they're very cool. There's a lot of cool things happening.
Jesus, Chicago's really popping off, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think it is literally like the literary capital of the world, like better than New York. From friends I've had from New York come to Chicago and join the lit scene, they say it's better than New York. So I think we're the
Huh.
best in the world, quite frankly.
Yeah. I like that, best in the world. So
Yeah.
like growing up though, why'd you go into creative writing?
Mm, so it's funny. I literally back in preschool when I was like 3 or 4 years old, I guess was already a prolific reader and writer thanks to my mom who really encouraged that from like the beginning of when I understood language. So I was like reading nap time stories to the kids when I didn't want to do nap time, and then I would sit at our computer from as early as I could sit up and be typing short stories and like plays and screenplays and stuff like that. So it kind of was just something that followed me in my whole life. And then thinking about what I wanted to do in college, I was like, well, I like writing my notes app poetry in school when I was in high school, and I was pretty good at it. I even got into Berkeley somehow on creative writing, just writing my
Wow.
shitty notes app poetry, which is crazy. I guess I was a good essay writer as well. But yeah, it was just like it made the most sense for me. I have a lot of like career interests that I just feel like I wouldn't be able to put my all into. Like I really want to do criminology. I really wanted to do like law and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think creative writing is just always something that's been very personal to me, and it's fun to work on craft as well as, getting your personal grievances out in the world in there. It's very methodical learning about craft techniques and stuff. So, I think that was a good blend for me. It felt very humanistic, I guess.
So it's interesting that you're like probably one of the younger writers. So like when you grew up in like high school, you had a phone and you're like doing like
Mhm.
poetry in the notes app. Did you learn that from someone or did you just like take to that automatically?
I don't know. I think it was the easiest thing to do. Like, I read a lot of poets in my classes for, AP Lang, AP Literature that were like, Robert Frost and like the greats from 100 years ago. But what I gravitated towards at the time, because this would have been like, I think I was a senior between 2018, 2019. So Rupi Kaur was very popular, and Orion Carlotto and Lang Leave, and these very like Instagram poet type people. So that's who I was kind of inspired by at the time. But I always knew that like playing with strange metaphors and imagery and stuff like that, like I knew I had it a better grasp of it than the Instagram poetry, so to speak. So the Notes app was just like the most convenient place, I guess. I was tired of, in my AP classes, we had to handwrite our essays very
Mhm.
vehemently within like an hour. So I wasn't really going towards a notebook to write my poems because I had to do that enough in school. So the Notes app, and now Google Docs is where most of my poems are homed.
Can I ask
But
like how young you were when you got a phone?
um that's a good question. I think I was in seventh grade, maybe. So I would have
Okay.
been like 12, 13.
How fast you become addicted to it?
Um, I think I've been addicted to it since I had it pretty much. I was like famous on Twitter when I was like 12.
Wait, what?
So ever since, yeah, I was like on Stan Twitter. So I had like, ever since then, I've been mutuals with Slater, which is that like sort of neo pop EDM sort of artist. And we've been friends on there since I was 12. Now she's like huge and has hundreds of thousands of followers. But yeah, it's all from Stan Twitter back in the day,
So what
unfortunately.
would you like argue with people and fight with people?
Mm, I don't even remember. Like, I kind of blocked out that part of my life because I don't have that Twitter anymore. And so it's
Okay.
like, I don't tend to go back in my diaries and read, maybe one day I will for an interesting found poem, but it's kind of in the archives for right now. But now I'm addicted to it mostly because I kind of have to do it for work as well. Like, doing literary magazine stuff, you kind of have to like really be on touch with social media. So I'm addicted to it in a way that I don't want to be anymore because it's not fun, but it's like I have to do it.
Yeah. So you've seen the changes of like Twitter and shit. Yeah, I had someone else on here that was
Mhm.
like they also started out fairly young on Twitter, and then that's how they found, like, poetry communities and shit because they, like, lived in, like,
Mm,
Croatia, like so did you
yeah.
find a internet community when you were coming up?
Um, Honestly, I don't think I did until sometime in the last year. My
Mhm.
Twitter is very like my followers are very sort of separated by thing kind of because it'll be like the poetry people that follow me and then the film people that follow me and then a lot of like the COVID cautious community and like people who are disabled and immunocompromised because I have long COVID. So that's sort of like I was getting very involved in talking about all different kinds of things. And now like there's very little overlap for the most part on my Twitter. So my audience is like very sporadic in who likes whatever I post because no matter what I do, most people aren't going to be interested in it, so to speak. But yeah, I think building community online is something I've never understood. And I've wanted to be one of those people that has a very like solid community and is very involved in like a way that's not just wasting time. But the algorithm and how you gain followers, like I don't know if that's for me right now, maybe in the future,
Well,
but yeah.
if you're doing stuff in person, I would just recommend keep doing that because that's, like I think that's what everyone wishes they could do, is, like, do in-person stuff.
Yeah, I will say for the Lit Mag, when I first opened submissions and I posted it on Twitter, that's where we got all of our international submissions from. So it must have just been people retweeting, and we actually have more people in other countries than we have in states. Like
Oh, wow.
about half the people from issue one are from Chicago, but then there's people from 11 different countries from 4 different continents around the world.
Wow.
That got an issue number one everywhere from like Ireland and England to France and Ghana and like Indonesia and India and Pakistan and like so many places around the world. Funny enough, not Canada though.
Oh wow.
But yeah, so that was really interesting. And I'm curious now for like the hype for the next opening of submissions. If we'll get a bunch of new countries because I can see on Squarespace so many countries that like I never got submissions from or people like looking at our website. So I wonder if anyone from those countries is going to submit, but I guess we'll see.
We could call them out, maybe. I don't know.
I don't know. I only have their IP address, so I
Oh,
think
okay.
it might be a little stalkerish of me, but
Oh, yeah,
we'll
sure.
see.
So, okay, you said you got long COVID. Like, can you explain that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny because I remember exactly it's kind of like 9/11, but I'm too young to remember where I was on 9/11 because I was just a baby. But I do remember where I was when I heard the first case of COVID was in Chicago, and I was working in my university's printing press, actually. I worked at University of Illinois Press, and I was sitting at my desk and I was like reading the news, and I was like, oh, this looks bad. So February 2020, before really the big news broke and before any of the like stay-at-home orders happened, is when I started caring. And I didn't catch it until 2022 when I was just like outside having lunch with a friend just before my birthday. And then I ended up being really sick for a year and I
Damn.
was in the ER a couple times. It
For
was like
real?
pretty bad.
So what
Yeah.
happened, like, during your first ER visit? Like, what was going on?
Um, I had like I don't even I mean it was so kind of a blur. I remember like my lungs were coming back with like something scary with the scans. I had like really bad like bruising issues, like my blood vessels were kind of like being damaged and stuff. It took like 9 months for my blood vessels to sort of like be healed, I guess.
Were
And
you,
so
like,
it
totally
was
freaked out?
yeah, I was like crying a lot. I was really scared because I didn't know like what was gonna happen. And it took, I think, 9 months for me to like heal. Thankfully, though, like this isn't the case for a lot of people with long COVID who just simply like they are become so incapacitated, like they can't work again, they can't do their hobbies anymore. But thankfully I was able to finish school and still do creative stuff. But like physically, I was struggling a lot, but I still was able to like make a movie in that time on campus and stuff. I was able to do all of my like schoolwork, my creative stuff. I was editor in chief of two magazines still, but I think I just like paced myself in a way where I tried to like take care of myself as much as possible. And then
So, like,
eventually it got better. But
was your body in pain, like, during this whole time?
it came and went, which was weird. But yeah, I would have like numbness and like pain and like my wrists where my blood vessels were. And like the weirdest thing was every time I would touch water, the blood vessels in my hands, like I would get so wrinkly and that would be super painful. So like you
Whoa.
kind of need to, wash your hands, take a shower, wash the dishes, stuff like that. So I had to be very conscientious of like how much time I was spending in the water. I felt like the opposite of a mermaid. Like I literally felt like the Wicked Witch of the West who can't touch water. Like it was insane. Um,
So, what were the
yeah.
doctors saying at the time?
Um, they didn't really know what to do. Like there's not a lot of good information and research on like what to do about it. And I'm one of the very lucky people that it sort of got better over time. Like there's so many clinical trials and like how to help it and people are understanding why it's happening, but not how to fix it. But the second time I caught it was actually at a literary event at a place in Chicago called Giggle Hour. And this was really unfortunate because this was in 2024. Like, this is one of the few mask required events still happening in Chicago, but the performers didn't have to wear them. And must have been one of the performers or something that had it because I followed them all on Instagram. And then afterwards, me and all of them were talking about how sick they were from it and stuff. And
Oh,
we
fuck.
all had gotten COVID from that event. And so that made me start thinking about like when I run my own events, how do I keep people safe from getting really sick and, possibly anything like that happening. So it really like I was feeling a lot of despair about it for several months, but then when it came to, this fall running my own event for the magazine and the winter, like what I can do about that. So it was kind of like I was able to find some inspiration and some hope in how like what community means to me and what it means to like keep people safe in community and stuff. Because I mean, most of the Chicago literary scene is very left leaning in many ways, but I think that's a big blind spot for a lot of people. So at least I'm trying to help make things safer for myself, but also other people, and like educate as much as possible with the little platform that I do have. So,
Okay, yeah, 'cause you're probably one of the only times I've heard of like someone like talking about having long COVID, because I know like it feels like a distant rumor that like may or may not exist. It's almost like Bigfoot or something.
yeah, which is crazy because like there's like even the US Bureau of Labor Statistics or whatever it's called. I've had to learn all of these names because I read about it so much, but I am by no means like an economist or like things like that. But there was a graph recently shown about the level of people who are out of work because of disability and who like the amount of disabled workers. And the graph from like I don't know what year it started, say like 1990 or something up to 2020, the average line is like this, but then 2020 to now it's like this because so
Mhm.
many millions of people have caught it and have gotten long COVID. And for a lot of people, it's so bad that they can't work anymore. They can't write, they can't read, they can't, exercise, like so many things. And so it makes me think like I love having the mental capacity to write and to read and to do all of these things. And I love my community of writers. So I guess it's like increasingly important to me, I think, to sort of like work around that framework because, yeah, like I don't know. There's so much to it. It's very interconnected, I think, with the literary world. A lot of celebrities even have it and talk about it.
Like who?
I don't know if any of them are like out of work because of it, but
Mhm.
obviously, like film sets can be very risky for a lot of
Oh yeah.
reasons. So it's like a big thing that a lot of industries have not really grappled with trying to make more sustainable, I think. So with the little power I have, I try to have a good balance.
Yeah, that's like a deep fear of mine, like getting long COVID. Because like I don't like. Do you know like if it's gonna come back or not? Like, is it always like in your body? Like,
Mm,
do you know?
well,
It just seems like a
it
mystery.
is it is like the more times people catch it, it's cumulative damage that can be done on your body. So the best
Fuck.
way to avoid getting long COVID is to avoid getting COVID in general. Now, obviously, the governments in the world have made it very difficult for people to avoid it because when have they ever cared about people's lives in any way?
True.
But yeah, it is something that like I kind of just have to take great effort to avoid, so as to not make it worse for myself because like I pretty much work, I mean, I work remotely and I'm pretty much working all the time now. So like sometimes it's nice to just sort of get in the groove and like do my day job, do my literary stuff, write some poems, whatever. But like it is frustrating sometimes, like trying to figure out that balance of like, do I want to take a risk and do I want to like go to a big popular thing that's happening, or do I want to not take the risk and then save myself and my body and my brain? Like it's kind of crazy, but
Did did anyone else that like got COVID from that event? Did they also get long COVID?
I unfollowed all of them after that because I was so just like
I
upset.
bet. You're probably pissed
Yeah,
off.
yeah, because of the situation. But what they did do, I saw recently, is they've added air purifiers to their event now on top of requiring masks. So at least like they kind of realized, oh, we need to mitigate some sort of risk so our events don't become super spreaders. So at least like in kind of a dark way, it enacted a positive change for, trying to make their event safer and stuff. But I don't know how it's affected anyone else from the event itself. Statistically, about like a quarter of cases turn into long COVID. So if four of us got it, at least one person probably has some level of like residual health issues. But I don't know. I just was like so freaked out by the whole thing. I stopped following all of them and I don't want to go to their events anymore.
Yeah, I bet. So like, do you think it's like people's like bodies, or do you think it's a strain that like affects the
Mm,
person?
yeah, I guess for whatever reason, it's especially the way that the virus affects your T cells. Like a lot of conclusions have been made or comparisons have been made about, and it's very stigmatizing even now still to talk about it, but like HIV turning into AIDS, which is what does that stand for? Autoimmune acquired
Something
like
like
deficiency
yeah.
or something. Like it's kind of the same principle, like a virus that you get that somehow affects your immune system and your T cells and like every part of your body, I guess, that just turns into something a little bit more like long-standingly bad. And I've been trying to breach between, there are several literary magazines that do actually follow like health and the body and chronic illness and disability. So I've been following a lot of literary magazines that like have to do with those things and trying to see like who is writing about this and what are we doing creatively to sort of spread awareness to it, because I think a lot of people are more likely to listen to anecdotes than they are to read studies. So there's like Bellevue Literary Review and Flair Magazine and a couple other ones. I think Rogue Agent is one as well that's not necessarily to do with chronic illness, but like about the body in general, and what it feels like to live in your body, which I think is such an interesting prompt for a lit mag. So I've been trying to think of, ways that other literary magazines are trying to approach the topic. And I found a couple people that write about it specifically, but there's not a whole lot of overlap, I think, with like creative content being made by people with long COVID and like the larger like visual sphere, just because so many people struggle to make creative content when they suffer from it, that it's just kind of like being almost like a curtain pulled over it just by nature of society. It's like not being shown as much, but there's a few magazines that talk about it, which is interesting.
So would you ever do an issue that like only people that have long COVID would like submit to?
Kind of. I've been thinking about doing themed issues for the next few magazines that we have. So for Sabr Tooth Tiger, because it's kind of like 3 different things thematically as well. In the first issue, there's a chapter just about Sabr, which is, again, that concept of like steadfastness and resilience. And then Tooth, which is things kind of to do with like anything visceral or anything to do with the body, or, things that are a little bit more violent, things like that. And then Tiger, which I thought of as like a positive like spirit and like wildness of, the unabashedness of life. And so I was thinking for the next 3 issues, the first one is going to be Sabr kind of based, which is like mysticism and things like that, which I think is cool. Then Tooth will be, I think, about chronic illness and disability in general. And then Tiger, I was thinking of doing like folklore and fairy tales. So for issue number 3, we'll have something relating to that. But that'll be, I think, next winter that I'm doing that.
Have you ever heard of Metatron up in Canada?
No, is that another magazine?
It's Metatron Press. Ashley Obscura, she runs it. She lives up in Canada. You have like a parallel with them, it feels like.
Cool. I'll have to look that up. What is it called? Metatron?
Metatron, yeah. It's like it was like an internet magazine, and then they turned it into a press, and now it's kind of similar.
Cool.
Do you have a Substack?
I have a Substack, but I have never used my Substack.
Okay. I think
I would like to.
I think you would like it over there.
I think so too. I've been really I tweeted about this recently. I would like to write a lot more long form content and essays and creative nonfiction and things like that, because I have so much to say and I have so much I've been thinking, and I'm like, this isn't really the type of stuff you get out in a poem, It's stuff that you want to just like write about, do an essay about. So I've been thinking about it. I also want to write pitches for like publishing in different like journalistic spheres as well. So I'll have to decipher like what's for Substack that I can just put out versus like what's something maybe I can get published. But yeah, that's a goal for 2026 of mine.
Do you ever feel with like if someone or do you have the fear of like someone stigmatizing you because of the long COVID or wearing a mask?
It's interesting because when I joined the Chicago literary scene, now I had just come from the film scene, and the like sort of indie film scene I had been in, they were a mask required cinema. So that part of it was like, I felt pretty confident about my transition into it with the lit scene. But then in the literary scene, because there's so many different events and so many things, it was maybe me and like 3 or 4 other people that came to the events wearing one out of the like 30 of our regulars. And that was a little bit difficult for a while, because it kind of like, people never treated me differently, but it kind of feels like there's always something unspoken because there's like a difference, And I've sort of struggled with that this year, of just increasingly feeling like, how when a venue is not wheelchair accessible, it's not accessible to people with wheelchairs, like simply people with wheelchairs. If a venue isn't wheelchair accessible, it can't go. Now, obviously, something like this is a little different when we're talking about like things in the air that can be dangerous. But I've just been thinking a lot about accessibility and what it means to make a space or an event accessible for people who possibly either already are chronically ill or disabled, because so many people, like thousands and thousands of people, are hardly leaving their house because, they can get exposed to COVID, or, now the flu is really bad and they know there's a high chance if they catch it, they just will die or they'll be hospitalized, and they don't
Whoa.
want that to happen. Or just the people who are, already healthy but are avoiding COVID because they want to stay healthy. And what it means to make spaces accessible for both of those people. And so I was glad to be the first lit mag that, had air purifiers, thanks to Clean Air Club in Chicago, and masks required from Save the Night in Chicago, which is sort of like usually they do rock shows, funny enough, that are mask required. We're kind of their first like branch into poetry, but that's exciting. And it's cool to be one of the only ones doing it. Like, it gives you something to say in that regard that's kind of historic, but at the same time, I would love to not be the only one, because again, like, I went to Giggle Hour and I caught it. I don't want to catch it at another place and, possibly be harmed. So it's been a difficult time, I think, with the lit scene. I've been not going to nearly as many events as I used to, just because I've been, just kind of stressed out about that kind of thing. And I've been making myself so busy so as to not feel like I'm missing out, but I do feel like I am. But I don't think I've ever been stigmatized. I think in general, it is something that is othering and is something that is stigmatized in general, because it's like the ones that are taking the precautions, they are seen as like different, and then the ones that aren't going to feel inspired by the ones that are, because they're like, oh, well, someone else is already doing that. But I'm like, the more places we make accessible, in my opinion, the better. So I don't know, there's so much to say about it.
How much do the air purifiers cost for people to get to like make their events clean?
Yeah, so Clean Air Club, they actually have a free library, so completely free. I don't know how I think they're just donation funded, like, to keep themselves, because obviously, like, having a storage space probably costs a couple $100s a month for them. But for the average lay person, and you can, rent it from anything to like your family Christmas to an event that's like for a poetry thing with 100 people, just figuring out how many you would need, or like what the square footage is the thing. So I'm not paying in terms of money, but I was paying in terms of labor, obviously, to, drive the car all the way over there and take these like 2 big purifiers onto the rack and then get it all the way downstairs.
How big
I
are
needed
they?
help. Of course, the ones that we got, because it was a massive event space, they were probably like 2 or 3 feet high by 1.5 feet long, if I had to guess. And then there were 2 of those, so I needed help, obviously. But it is completely free, and they want as many people to rent out of their space as possible. They have so many different sizes and different things in there. They have live stream equipment for anyone who, wants to live stream their events for people that can't come. So they have a whole lot of stuff going. They're a really great organization, honestly.
So if you hold an event, how many people are you certain are going to come? Like, do you always know it's going to be a big turnout?
Yeah, so this was my first one in Chicago that I ran myself, which is pretty cool. And because the magazine was brand new, I had no idea what to expect. But I had sort of garnered based on, there were about 30 contributors from Chicago in the magazine. And so I knew a lot of them were going to show up, and I had about 8 readers in person. And so I had to assume, okay, if each of those people brings even 3 friends, that's a couple dozen people. And then all of the people that were just interested in reading the magazine that would come, plus my friends and family. I had no idea how many would come, but I guessed maybe about like 30 to 50. But I do think about like 75 to 100 people came. The place was totally packed, and it was like, it felt like a godsend to see that,
That is a lot of people.
everyone, because we had masks required at the event, everyone was like cool about wearing them. Everyone was good about wearing them. I didn't have to remind anyone. I was running around getting so much else set up that like my team, who was like on my Chicago team with the magazine, was really good about helping me here and there with like setting up the live stream, handing people masks out, getting people, I gave stationery for people to write us little notes and stuff like that. And then selling the magazines. So it was a very well-oiled machine that we ran for that event, miraculously so. I was so nervous about how it was going to go, and it kind of just was like a blur of 3 hours of like an incredible evening, and then it was over. I was like, whoa.
So what happens if someone doesn't wear a mask? What do you kick them out?
Well, because it's a public place, obviously, like Sleeping Village, where we ran it, is also a bar. I don't think I would have the authority to do something like that. But the funny thing that happened was like, we didn't obviously like I felt kind of weird about telling the people that work there, like, hey, you have to wear this. But I
Mhm.
think just because they like wanted to respect it and everyone else was wearing one, and they were probably happy to, not get exposed to something at their own workplace. Obviously, the people, working the bar and working the front table and stuff ended up wearing them without any of us asking, which is really nice. I think a lot of the people that came in just to drink and didn't know that event was happening, I think they even took one. So actually the opposite happened, where like more people than I expected actually were really good about it, and it made me feel very nice. But there are, to be fair, some people that like physically can't wear them, like Alice Wong that just passed away not too long ago. She was a very big, writer and publisher in the sort of the world of disability and chronic illness, and she had one where she had a tracheotomy, and so she didn't breathe out of her mouth or nose. She had to breathe through sort of like a machine, so to speak. And so
Oh, wow.
she, wrote a lot about in her, I think she had a series on, funny enough, Teen Vogue, but she wrote a lot about how she would rely on other people to wear a mask around her because, her filtration system didn't filter, for viruses and things like that. And she literally like didn't, like, wearing a mask would do nothing for her because she was breathing through a tube and not through her mouth and her nose. And so it's really sad and unfortunate that she passed away from some sort of infection just a month or two ago. I'm not sure how it happened, but it just like there's so much to consider when we, think about other people and sort of that aspect of it, that like a lot of people say that they don't have time to think about and don't have time to care for, but I'm like, how many of us can afford to like get an infection and even take a week off of work? You know what I mean? You might not even make rent if that happens. So like best case scenario in that like is still a bad case scenario. But yeah, I don't know. There's so much to say about it.
So, okay, when you got infected, did you have the vaccine?
hmm Yeah.
Okay. How do
I
you
had
feel?
I had
Do you feel those are even effective?
They are somewhat effective, to my understanding. Is it's like better to get them than not, because the
Mhm.
risks of catching COVID when you're unvaccinated are much higher than if you are unvaccinated. But it doesn't prevent, I guess, long COVID. Obviously, it doesn't always prevent deaths,
It doesn't
things like
prevent long
that.
COVID?
Mm-mm.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
What do you
Which
wait, how is long COVID different from just COVID? Well, I know it's longer, but, is it a different strain? I don't know
So
these things.
pretty much, and this is funny to be talking about this because I was just saying the other day that like I've been considering a career in public health. I literally was
You
writing about
should.
this and I was like, I should be going to grad school to teach children poetry. That is my dream.
Mhm.
However, the world is awful and I
It
want
is.
to do something about it. And so I'm literally considering a career in public health and doing poetry. On top of that, there is a person I know, not personally, but like I have her collection, who's like a pharmacist for a living and has an intersection with her poetry. So I guess it's possible. But so my point isn't saying that I know so much about this, and I wish that, the people that work in public health already could like be taking care of this, but it's like, when has the government ever cared about humans? Like homelessness wouldn't be a thing if like the government cared about people, so we have to care about each other. But anyhow, my point is that uh so the difference between it is, I guess, is just that like it just sort of depends on how your body clears the virus or not,
Mhm.
so to speak. Like what we know about long COVID is that like when you catch COVID and it's got like the spike proteins and it's like going throughout your body or whatever, because it affects the vascular system, you have blood vessels in every single part of your body. And so, wherever it sort of like has its reservoirs, pretty much, so to speak. That's why like long COVID, which is pretty much just like any long-term complication in your health that's because of catching COVID, it can be anywhere from, your voice changes if you're, a singer, and like you can have like what's it called? Vocal cord inflammation, and your voice can change, and it can, you can go deaf if it affects your ears. It can, cause certain types of cancer. It can cause, a raised risk of heart attack and stroke because of, your blood vessels. Blood clots are a big thing. Different types of like diabetes is a big one. Other sort of like chronic illnesses like lupus, or probably like 100 different things. It really just is such a case by case basis. It's very no rhyme or reason, unfortunately. And I've been trying to figure out how I can breach this like very scientific, very difficult to wrap your brain around topic into poetry. And I've been trying to like tinker around with writing a poem about it. I went to a poetry workshop recently on grief and surrealism with only poems that I thought was a really good sort of prompt for me to think about these things, because I am just like constantly grieving every single day because of this. Like thousands of people that not personally know, but that I've seen on Twitter and stuff have long COVID. I have it. Someone else in my family has it. A lot of my friends have it.
Someone in your own family?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
my cousin got like heart murmur from it and like heart inflammation and stuff. It doesn't like affect him to his day-to-day life, but like, you know, some people probably have to get like a pacer or whatever because of it, or they would just like have a heart attack and die. Like it's so random. But I've been trying to figure out how I can breach the topic into writing poetry. Because I think poetry is a very powerful thing. So
well, you could do an online course. And like
I would love
long COVID,
yeah.
and you know, work with them through the
There is one actually, the Little Zoom Writers Room I just discovered recently, and they had an open mic literally called Fuck COVID maybe a month ago. And a lot of the attendees were people who have either been affected by COVID themselves, having long COVID, or they're disabled and or immunocompromised and are still like very strongly taking precautions. And so they shared poetry and music about how this last 6 years has been affecting them, and it was really profound and really powerful. And they do sort of like a hang out with us on Zoom and just like write stuff every Sunday type thing. So it would be really cool, I think, to maybe collaborate with them and try to do like a poetry workshop of sorts with maybe a particular topic, because it's very difficult to talk about, but like millions and millions and millions of people in the world have been affected by it. So I think there's a level of market for it, I suppose, even though it's a difficult topic. But yeah.
Would you ever teach your own, like just independently?
I would love to do that. I recently collaborated with Concentrating Chaos in Chicago a month ago to teach my first ever poetry workshop. And funny enough, they also on their own are a mask required, air purified poetry event, because Skunk Cabbage Books they do it at is as well. So I was able to do that about a month ago, and my topic was about poetry endings and refining poetry endings, and I taught everyone what a haibun is as well, which is very exciting. And it made me realize how much I love teaching workshops. I have another one coming up with my friend Tori, who runs Written on a Napkin. We're going to be doing it all about like writing devotionals and poetry about devotion to a certain place or person or thing, which is very exciting. We were just on a call like 4 hours ago talking about that today and planning that. So yeah, I have lots of things in the works. I would love to keep doing that. I've taken a couple workshops online that I really loved and have made good lifelong friends out of recently. So yeah, it's definitely something I'm considering. It takes a lot of bandwidth, which I have very little of.
Yeah.
But
What do you mean?
hopefully someday. It takes a lot of energy and time to think about, curating a certain thing and, trying to teach other people how to do something. And again, when I'm like already kind of like dealing with my own personal struggles every day on top of having an 8-hour-a-day job, and then also running the magazine and trying to find time to write my own poetry. I always say there's not enough hours in the day with the way that my work-life balance just does not exist. But regardless, I would love to make time for it.
Now, would you ever do like an anthology, like a nonfiction anthology of like people that have had long COVID?
I feel like it would be, I'm not totally sure if I would do something like a book. Do you mean like a longer sort of collection?
Yeah.
I think if I were to be able to tap into the right resources to get submissions for, more specific themes like that, I would definitely be interested in doing that, because most of the books that are available on it right now are nonfiction, but they're not creative nonfiction.
Yeah,
they're more educational, scientific nonfiction. So I do think it would be really interesting to sort of put together something that was creatively written by people, specifically to do with long COVID, though I wonder if it would maybe be too repetitive with the issue that I'm doing already with like chronic illness and disability in general. But because that's something that so many people are still affected by, I think maybe for like the next tooth one for next year, that could be a thing to consider. I have a lot of lofty plans for the magazine that are sort of floating up around in my head. So I haven't really like specifically considered that, but I probably should. I like that idea.
Roxanne, she did an anthology it was about, it's a pretty dark topic, but it was about rape, and it was like
Mm,
dispatches from rape culture. And I read that, and it was so creative because it was like not focused on rape, but like it came
yeah.
through every essay. That might be something to like look at or like style. Like, have you thought about writing a long poem of a book on long COVID?
Mm, kind of like an epic poem.
Or yeah, yeah. Not really, but like some
I
people do long poems where it keeps going on and on and on.
Right, right. I have written one long poem for a class in school, I think for my intermediate poetry workshop, which was all about trying crazy things and having funny, like very specific prompts. And so she gave us this one prompt for a long poem that was like every stanza was something totally different. And it was like 5 pages and it was insane. I think I wrote that one about being a flute player actually back in
Mhm.
school. So it was totally random, but I have not yet thought about writing other long poems since because it's so hard for me to like figure out what I want to say sometimes that my poems tend to live at around like a page, maybe 2 pages at maximum lately. But
Oh,
if I can,
40 pages.
that would be a really cool endeavor. It would probably take me like a year,
Mhm.
but that would be fun.
You could do like one stanza that's like pre-COVID and then another stanza like post-COVID. And like it would like show the difference. I don't know.
Yeah. Although funny thing about that too, not to get pedantic, but I assume you probably mean like the era when people taking were taking precautions versus like the era that the government isn't and stuff. But it's like it's kind of crazy because it's still technically like not when things are so bad, like post COVID. Like I saw a graph the other day of like all of the cases from 2020 to now, and the least amount of cases we've ever had was 2021, and
Oh
now it's just
wow,
really
really?
bad. Now it's just
Wow,
really
that's
bad all
crazy.
the time. Yeah, the worst was in 2022. I assume that's when everything got reopened because it's like everything is kind of like this, and then it's like this, and then it's like that. So,
I meant post-COVID that like we have COVID and like pre-COVID is like we don't have COVID. Like
that's
20,
true.
before 2020.
Yeah, sometimes I read my poems or like watch movies that I've, experienced from like 2019 and prior, and I'm just like, I miss not having that constant layer of like existential dread. I
Yeah.
had like personal existential dread back in high school because I was like, depression and angst and all of those things. But it just feels so much bigger now in the last couple of years that like it is definitely interesting when you do come across poems that are engaging with like difficult world topics, I guess, because there's a lot of those that are happening, but very few that like can actually affect every single person in the world and has. Um, like, I don't know. So it's almost something I feel like people are averse to like reading about or writing about in a lot of ways, even though, when you go through times of war, there's so many war poems that come out of it, and war is terrifying and horrible. But for some reason, easier to like contend with, I guess. Maybe because it's like
This happens
more
so much.
contained, I
Yeah.
suppose, whereas this is very, very uncontained.
Also, I
But
feel like
yeah.
because it's just happened, we're still like trying to figure out like do we even like write about it or not. I feel like because Brandon Taylor, he just came out with a book, like Minor Black Figures, that kind of deals with it, but it's like one of the first novels that I've seen someone trying to deal with what happened during that time. I think like in 10, 15 years, there's going to be a lot more art because there's going to be some distance between the time that has occurred. But also we're
Yeah.
gonna know a lot more and shit, and maybe it might come back, so we don't, or I mean, it's already here, but like it might, in a very
Yeah, the government
temporary.
might do something again.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so interesting to think about things like that. I always wonder because I'm not very familiar with, the Spanish flu of 1918 and the sort of art that was coming out of that. Because obviously what happened right after that was like World War II, and then there were a lot of things going on because of that. So I think it's kind of difficult to find any art that's like contained to like the early pandemic days of 1918, but I would be very curious to see. I've seen a lot of like news articles that are very similar, and headlines and photographs and things like that. But the art is very difficult to find.
Do you know about other plagues? I was looking at like it was like the Justinianic period is like one of the first plagues, and it lasted for like 500 years. And I was thinking about that. It's crazy because there'd be people like entire lives and generations gone by like that lived during a plague.
hmm Yeah, I actually this is one of the things that I did love about majoring in creative writing in college is that it was not so intensive of a major as, say, engineering, where every single class you take has to be related to that. So I took a lot of electives just to sort of like expand my mind and stuff. So one of the classes I did choose to take, I want to say it was 2022, was in the School of Integrative Biology, but it was a class all about pandemics. And so we learned about all of the early ones up through, the ones of the 20th century, and then briefly the swine flu of 2009, which funny enough was, even though it was just a pandemic nonetheless, like it didn't seem to have nearly
No.
like as devastating of an effect at all. And then of course we learned about, contemporaneously with COVID and stuff like that. And it was very interesting to be in 2022 and be in that class and not be a biology major, like just being a creative writing major. And like myself and my teacher were the only ones acknowledging that it was ongoing. And all of my other classmates were like kind of thinking that it was in the past entirely. And I was like, you guys aren't even listening to the teacher. Like, why are you in this class type thing?
Mhm.
So it was nice to be able to take scientific classes just to like better my understanding. And I even did that with like, I took criminology, I took sociology, I took, different like psychology classes. I took a class on like the history of madness and, the like mental institutions and things like that, just because I could and I wanted to. But yeah, that was when I learned a lot about all the different kinds. And it made me realize like, there was a time where we eradicated smallpox, I'm
Mhm.
like, why can't we get back to caring about public health? Like
Because there's
smallpox is terrible.
conspiracy theorists out there.
It's
Shit.
true. Yeah, yeah. I think the
And it
way that
becomes
like,
that becomes like the main thing and everyone believes it.
yeah, like media and propaganda, so to speak,
Mhm.
and all of those things, it's interesting to see like what is effective and what isn't across like a large population. It would be really cool to have taken a class in some way to do with that, because I don't know, it's something very relevant and very interesting. But yeah, it's, when you think about the world, it's kind of crazy. But I guess that's why we're in the creative world, because that's kind of how we like grapple with such things.
So would you go for an MFA?
I've been thinking about it. I've been wrestling between either a master's degree in poetry or in journalism or in public health, or I always wanted to maybe do something in law, but again, I think something like law school, like, and I don't want to study for the bar, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, so I'm thinking maybe journalism, which is a healthy blend between like educating about world issues that are happening and also still being able to write. Whereas, like, if I just did poetry, I think my options would be very limited when it came to career, because I don't know if I want to become a teacher or a professor.
Go for
But
public
yeah,
health.
possibly. I don't know.
Get
I
that
don't have a
job.
great science background in terms of like I understand it conceptually, but depending on what the workload is, I'm not sure if it'll like be what I want to do. But at the same time, all of our public health leaders are completely incompetent right now, so surely I stand a decent chance.
Because you have that want to go do it and the strive to go do it, and then you'll at least have a job, that you can be in, and then you can also write poetry on the side. Well, if you go into poetry, it'll be like a boot camp, and you'll strengthen all those, creative ways, but you might not get a job. I mean, the job is
Yeah, that's very
a big
true.
thing.
Like, I would hope. Now, I've done very little research into sort of the world of grad school, but I would hope at least no matter what I go into, hopefully I can like still take classes here and there and
Yeah.
other things that I'm interested in. I don't know if it's that free as it is in undergrad, but yeah, I've definitely been thinking of applying very soon to some things just because I'm like, I gotta do something. I can't like work in tech my whole life as I am right now.
What do you
So
do?
I work in like data for like tech stuff. It's kind of funny. I can't say too much about it because I signed an NDA.
What,
But
they made you sign an NDA? Oh my god. Wow.
yeah, yeah. But it is like it's kind of cool. I do get to use my creative writing skills in some times, which is really interesting. But yeah, it's I don't think like a career. I don't know. I'm very open when it comes to career because I guess I'm still so new out of college. Like I'm kind of just like seeing where things go and what I like doing. And I do like what I'm doing right now, but I'm trying to think like where do I see myself 5 years down the line? I want to have another degree in something. That's
Hmm.
all I know.
So, do you have any plans for putting out books of poetry?
Yes, I have been very, very slowly working on something for the last couple of years. I self-published my first collection in late 2020, and I would like to go the proper route for publishing now that I've had more experience in the world, of course. So I'm trying to think of like
What do you mean the
all of my
proper? What do you mean the proper route?
like submitting to like a press or a publisher and then trying to do with that, even if it's like an indie publisher. Like I love Bottle Cap Press, who
Hmm.
puts out so many cool things. I don't think I would necessarily get into like Macmillan for my first collection, but like having it published by a press that's not myself is the goal.
Or just keep doing it until you get noticed by a press and they reach out to you. I mean, I know
Yeah,
people that have gone either way.
yeah, I definitely like, I'm
Don't.
having fun right now submitting to
Yeah.
literary magazines, like a one-off type thing. And that's what I was gonna say is like all of my work is so vastly different because I'm still playing around with like what my style is, and I write so infrequently usually that like I don't know if any of it fits the vibe of like one collection. So
Hmm.
I'm seeing where it goes, but I definitely think hopefully by the end of 2026, maybe I'll have a manuscript. Who knows?
But the fact that you're running a magazine and that you're doing events and participating in a literary community, it surrounds your like you're still like embedded in the creativeness of the community. So it's still like
Yeah.
it doesn't like go away. Like when you go back to write, you're gonna still be like have that strength. It's like working out or something.
Yeah, that's very true. It has been very inspiring, I think, working in this field. Like I've felt, funny enough, like the most like depressed and dread and like anxiety that I have in a very long time, but I also feel the most inspired and driven as I have in a very long time. So it's a very like opposite sides of the same coin type thing, but yeah,
I
I don't
saw that
know.
I saw that you're gonna be published by Burial Magazine. How'd you find them?
Yes. Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So I think I followed their like Twitter page for a little bit, but someone like I also had like no prior experience with this person, and we just sort of were on the same like Twitter literary community sphere, but Travis Shosa, I believe their last name is. I might be saying it wrong.
Mhm.
But they just like put me in a group chat and they were like, I'm starting something called Dodo Eraser and we're doing a little reading series on Zoom and I would love to have you. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. Absolutely. And the editor in chief of Burial Magazine happened to be one of the attendees of the event. And I had read this one poem in my lineup and I was like, I have submitted this poem to like 4 magazines. No one wanted it. Like, if you guys want to let me know if it's just bad, just tell me. And then Zach ended up being like, hey, actually would love for you to submit to Burial. And then I did. And then he accepted it literally within like the night.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
yeah, I'm very excited. I think it comes out in March, I want to say.
Do you have any other poems that you've been like submitting and you can't submit?
Some of them have been in limbo for quite a bit of time because most magazines do take like 2, 3, 4 months to respond to you on average. So I have a lot. I'm very, very spreadsheet oriented. So
Oh,
I've
really?
been, yeah, very, very love my spreadsheet because I have so many poems that like I hardly submitted for years. So this year is really the big push that I've been doing now that I'm more involved in the community. So I've got like maybe 20 poems in limbo right now of seeing where they can go. And they've been poems I wrote between, 4 years ago to last week.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
That's like
lots
a
of things.
like a chat
Huh?
book. It's a chat book.
You would think, but they're all so different that I'm like,
Okay.
none of these fit together. A
Mhm.
couple here and there, but for the most part, they're so different. Like I don't write frequently enough to be consistent in my themes.
Well, I'm putting one out in 2 days. Lo-fi
Oh my
mag.
gosh.
I'll take one.
Yeah. Wait, that's great. What is it?
Oh, it's called Lo-fi. I don't have the site yet, but I bought it in October. It's been sitting there, and I have a bunch of today, I've just been getting all these asking people for poems and stories, and I've gotten a lot back, so if you wanna submit one, I'll take one.
Oh my gosh, yes. Where can I send it to?
T.burn@gmail.com.
I'm gonna write that down.
But
I
it's
do have so
T
many.
TDOTBURN.
Okay. At gmail.com.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, thanks for plugging that. I will definitely send something. I think it's so fun. That's what's interesting too, is so many people who submit their stuff to literary magazines. They want the biggest and the fanciest, and they want their poetry magazine and their Columbia Review and the Yale Review, etc. But like, and I used to only submit, there was a year, I think 2023, I only submitted to Poetry Magazine and Yale Review. And boy, was I humbled when 18 months later I get a rejection. Um, but I love, like, so many people trusted in Sabr Tooth Tiger. I was the first ever, like, that's the wrong grammar. This issue was the first ever one. And so, people were submitting like into the void for the magazine and were putting so much trust in me and stuff. And like, thankfully, I like to hope that I've delivered and that I've been doing their work justice and trying to like do as cool things with the magazine as possible. And so I really love like submitting to anything from like something brand new to something medium to like, yeah, trying to
Mhm.
submit to like the Harvards and the Yales of the literary community. But yeah,
I
everything
feel
deserves
like
a chance.
college and majoring in creative writing, it can kind of turn some of us into little poetry or literary snobs, and it takes like leaving college and like experiencing life to
Hmm.
if you stay in the community, you learn otherwise.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely more about like the connections and the community rather than the reach.
Yeah.
Because, how many people actually like get, they say, oh, these magazines are like career builders and whatever, but I feel like what should come before that is community building. And
Yeah.
if you can, I love literally being like the editor in chief of my magazine, which people would think is sort of like a hierarchical position or something, but I've like made friends with a lot of the people that submitted to my magazine, and I will email with them and I'll chat with them, and we even like exchange work and stuff like that just to like write together as friends. And I feel like not many, if any, editor in chiefs of like even mid-tier to high-tier magazines are like engaging with their submitters and their contributors in the same way. But I think it's really important to like build that community with people, because it's like I loved their work so much that it like made me cry when I was, putting it all together and stuff, that like why would you not, foster those connections? So yeah.
How long did it take to build a saber tooth from like the idea that you had in your head to actually putting it out to actually getting it on the site
Mm. I
and
had
getting
the
it?
first, yeah, I had the first idea for wanting to start a magazine in the fall of 2023. I wanted to call it Two-Headed Charlie Horse, which is a
Mhm.
double entendre of like the Two-Headed Calf by Laura Gilpin, and then, Charlie Horse, calf, like, haha. But I needed something, I think, a little bit more serious and enduring for what the title of the magazine would be. And that came about November 2024, so just over a year ago. And then I opened submissions in April of last year, had them open until May, and was sort of like building my team and figuring out the promotion and stuff around that time. And then I think like the magazine is finally done and finished by like the very end of November. And it just took a little bit longer, I think, than I would like to for future issues, because I was still figuring everything out. And, I just had a lot going on. Like I got my first full-time job in that time. And so it just was like a lot was happening. But yeah, I think I'm glad that it all happened within one calendar year at least. I got it done in December, and now I can worry about opening submissions for the second one this month and not have too much overlap, and I'm on a good schedule. So yeah, I think I'm learning how to optimize.
What's one thing that you struggled with, and was there is there any point at any time that you doubted that it would happen?
I think I struggled most with running a team and actually letting people who were on the team help me with things, because it kind of was the dynamic of like, oh, this is Maddie's baby. This is her passion project. So we are happy to help you with what you want to do. And at the same time, I also was like, this is my baby. This is my passion project. I'm so stringent about how I want things. I have such a vision. But then, actually letting people help in a lot of ways, aside from like, the submissions process and choosing what went in the magazine was the easiest part. But I think collaborating in terms of marketing and promotion and like the world of the magazine is very difficult, because, I love help. Like it's so much work to do it on your own, but at the same time, it's so much energy to figure out who to delegate what to. So I have a lot of, I think, restructuring to do for issue 2, so we can all sort of like do something together that are on the team, and I can get help, but also it's like not to say anyone helped me in a way I didn't like. I got so much helpful, assistance, but I just like I still did way more than I probably should have, and that's kind of my fault. So that
What's your
was
first
difficult.
issue of your first magazine? You're just trying to figure out even what to do
Yeah.
because there's no guidebook. There's no like, here's what to do when you're making a magazine.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think in terms of doubt, I did have kind of an existential moment maybe like a week or two ago where I was like, what am I doing with this? Am I doing anything right? Am I doing anything good? Because I was like, there's so much more that I want to be doing with this magazine and I want to grow it and I want to, grow our followers and our reading base. And we've gotten about like 100 orders for the magazine, which to like be objective, like for your first one ever, that is kind of a really good sale like
Yeah,
goal to have. Like 100 is great within only a month, but at the same time, I was like, that's not enough. I want more people to have it. And why is no one else ordering it? But I
you
think,
can't get into that. That'll fuck you up.
yeah. So I think I just need to like be like, okay, I'm doing what I can and I'm doing it. People say that I'm doing it well, so I have to trust that I'm doing it well and I'm, being thanked for starting it and people are saying they like it and that they, love working with me. So I just have to be more confident in it, I guess, and just trust in the process. Cause like what magazine gets huge on their first issue that wasn't spearheaded by like a famous person or
Mhm.
someone with a lot of money? Like very few. So it's just trust the process type thing.
I'll ask if it stays at the audience that it does and it doesn't grow out, will you feel like you haven't succeeded?
Well, like maybe a little bit, just because a lot of the audience and the base obviously is like the Chicago lit scene people that already knew me as a friend that I think
Mhm.
are supportive because we're friends. And there's not too many brand new people to it, obviously, except for like the people internationally that submitted who I have no clue where they found us or why they trusted us, but I'm so glad that they did. But like, it's not that I feel I would have failed, but it's more so that like, it's like I want obviously new contributors per issue and I want to it's hard to grow an international magazine when obviously like you're located in one place. And so I guess thinking of like how can I it's not about like a numbers thing, but I guess as much as it is like an engagement thing of
Yeah.
like how can I be reaching new people and like getting them excited and doing something worth being excited about, I guess, that people are like, "Ooh, what's this?" type thing.
Yeah.
So
So do you translate the poems? Do they when the people send in from, like, other countries, do they come in through other languages?
no, I would love to publish work in translation from like other languages that are translated by someone else into English. Obviously,
Mhm.
I mostly know French. I know a little bit of Arabic and I know a little bit of like Irish Gaelic, and
Wow.
that's like the extent of my language knowing. It's mostly French, but even then, I wouldn't trust me to like fully accurately translate something because I'm not super fluent. But I would love to have poetry in translation. But interestingly enough, all of the poems that were and the stories too. Our longest short story was from a writer in Indonesia, and he wrote it was interesting because it was mostly in English, but there were some like colloquial phrases or like words that were in I believe it was in Arabic, but like anglicized Arabic. And so it kind of was just like little bits and pieces that I like it was for style purposes, so I didn't translate. But yeah, so most of the ones that we got internationally were in English already, which was cool, or all of them were. But it would be cool to get ones that aren't and then also have them be translated into English by someone who knows both languages. I think that's really cool.
I don't know any other, like, independent magazine that is taking, like, people from other countries, like, international. So that's probably they were probably searching for a magazine that takes, like,
Yeah,
international
that's
things.
true. Yeah, I have discovered a few this year, but I also again have been very like I have a spreadsheet of like 200 different lit mags that I really enjoyed and want to submit to. And
Like what?
so
Like who?
oh gosh. Oh, there's so many. It'll be easier if I tell you. There's a smaller list.
How'd you find this all these?
Um, Chill Subs is
Yeah,
really
Chill Sub,
good.
that's true, that's
Yeah.
true.
Chill Subs is an incredible resource. And
Yeah,
then honestly, like Instagram and Twitter and sort of just like looking through what other lit mags follow and then kind of doing
yeah,
it that way, or like Googling like, oh, list of all these mags, but like really it kind of all comes down to Chill Subs, to be honest.
yeah, that's true.
Um, But like, who did I submit to yesterday, for instance? I submitted to Muzzle Magazine, Expat Press, Apricity Press.
Wait. You submitted to Expat?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay.
Why? Do you know them?
Um, yeah, they're
Like in
they're
a
good. I just know, like, maybe I'll tell you off the podcast.
Sure. There is a poem that it's like timely and relevant to like the now of like this month or the past month, and they seem to have a really fast response time. And so I've been like really trying to like, at first I wrote it for Have Had Has or like Had Magazine, whatever they are,
Yeah.
and they didn't want it. And so I was like, oh shit, okay. And then I tried to send it to like Rattle, like their weekly like timely poem of the week thing, and then they didn't want it. And I was like, oh shit, who has a fast response time? And that's who I found next.
I guess, like, because that kind of does, like, the expat, like, they're kind of in, like, the communities that I involve myself in. I'm kind of a little bit, like, nervous of people, like, listening to this, because I'm like, am I going to lose followers just because the masking thing? I don't know. Because I know, like, the people that follow, that I'm involved with, they can be, they think it's like a conspiracy or something.
About what?
The masking thing, or like long COVID or whatever.
Aw.
I don't think
well,
you shouldn't worry about your politics or anything.
yeah.
Like,
No, I
just
was gonna
submit.
say just like tell them to like open
Yeah.
like even the mainstream news does report on it. And even like the New York City Public Health Department's Twitter is literally like on their Twitter saying like, guys, wear a mask, clean the air.
Like,
and
these
like
are people though that, like, they think like vaccines are conspiracy. Like,
right.
yeah.
It's hard to reach.
But you
such
can't worry
people.
about those people. You got to do
Yeah.
what you got to do.
Like it's more nuanced than that. Like
Yeah.
it's unfortunate that these vaccines work less than say like the measles vaccines we've gotten or polio or you know those kinds of things. It is nice that those vaccines prevented the infection completely.
Mhm.
These ones unfortunately are not the case, and that's
Yeah.
kind of I think hard for people to like reconcile with. I don't know. It's so much science for my creative writing brain, but I have to because
let's
no
go back to the
one else
magazines.
will. Yeah. But yes, so I have, I think, like 30, if not more, magazines that I'm waiting to hear back from. And I'm very excited. And I have a bone to pick with the people. Now, obviously, with mine, there was nothing to read first. It was completely brand new. Everyone in the first issue helped shape what the magazine looks like. But for the established magazines, I have a feeling so many people don't read the magazines they're submitting to and just want to submit to them to be in them. But what I do is I will literally spend hours and hours and hours actually reading these magazines before I submit to them. And oftentimes I will write a new poem based on, you know, like something that I felt prompted by these other magazines because I want to write something that I think they would like because I care more about being in the right place and doing something cool than just getting published. And I think more people need to read literary magazines. It's not enough to just submit. Like at the very least, if you're going to submit somewhere, read the last couple poems or short stories or whatever that they publish in the last issue, you know, like we got to support the lit mags. And I've spent so much money actually like doing either the faster submissions for some of these or if they have like a submission fee, just like being happy to, you know, pay to submit that. Because now I realize running my own how damn expensive it is to run a lit mag. And it's way cheaper to submit to literary magazines than it is to film festivals by like 85 to 90%. Like one film festival submission is upwards of oftentimes $30-50. It's maybe 3 to 5 to submit to a magazine that charges. So I'm happy to feel like I'm donating, so to speak, to them. So yeah, I think more people should do that if possible.
How many pieces did you read in Expat when you were reading that?
I read, I think 3 from their website, but because the guest editor is Don't Submit Lit, I went to their website and then I was reading a bunch from their website. So I spent probably like, I don't know, an hour or 2 on it, but mostly just to see for this one that I wanted to, like, because they have a fast response time and kind of like the vibe of the poem I already wrote was like related to that. I feel like I knew kind of quickly by like the about page that I would want it to be about like sent to this one, but I guess we'll see. There's always a chance I'll have to submit this poem I wrote next year because it's like a Christmas poem. So
when you saw their website and you saw the design, it didn't propel you away from it?
Not particularly.
Okay. When I first went on their website, I was like, oh, this looks gross. I don't want to be a part of this.
It is a little bit like older looking,
Hmm.
but there are lit mags that I have seen with much uglier websites,
Yeah.
but that I would still like to submit to because I believe in the magazine.
Oh, that's
And
nice of you.
yeah, because mostly it's magazines whose like their website is maybe ugly, but they have a print copy anyway, and their print copy looks fine. So I think it's just, whatever. But yeah.
Hmm.
I can't name which magazines those are if I ever submit to them and then they hear that I said their website was ugly. I want them to like me, so I can't name names, but I do
Hmm.
think some people should consider a better website design.
Yeah. So what? So you went into print for your magazine.
Yes.
So what's the cost of that, and like what's the process of printing a do you do print on demand, or do you do like other ways?
Mm, so per magazine, it costs about $12 to print, minimum. Because what
Jeez.
I did, like, the procrastinator that I am, I waited till the last minute to approve the proof copy of the first run that I did, and then I realized I had changes I need to make. Took like 2 weeks to do that for like no reason. And then it was maybe a week before my event was happening. And it happened December 4th. And that was just around Thanksgiving. And I was like, oh my God, I need to sell magazines at this event. I can't come empty handed. And so I spent, I want to say $800
Good Lord.
on rush shipping for 50 copies.
Oh my God.
Um, yeah. Yeah, so I could have spent $60 on shipping instead of, the 3 or 400 or whatever. But that's everything is a learning experience. So next time it will be cheaper. I will be better about ordering in advance, but yeah, it is expensive to order in bulk, especially when you need to do the 1 to 2 day option.
Hmm. So how much would have cost without the rushing?
I only know what the shipping prices are because the print prices for 50 or I think it was 75 actually was the same either way, but it would have been $60 in shipping for that many copies for 11 business days, I think. And then there was a middle ground option, but I was like, that's cutting it too close. So the fastest option was like $300 or $400 in shipping.
So what was the choice to go into print as opposed to just doing online?
I love a print copy. I
Hmm.
feel like they can last the test of time in a way that I fear the digital sphere might necessarily not.
Yeah,
Um,
usually online magazines last like 2 to 3 years. I find.
yeah. Yeah, and like distribution, I feel like is a lot more difficult, but I feel like the feat is worth it because I would like, having it in bookstores. Like we sell ours in City Lit.
Oh,
I'm
you
trying to
do?
get it in more Chicago bookstores.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it in more international bookstores too, quite frankly.
How do you get into Barnes and Nobles?
That's a great question. I think the printer that we use, which is Lulu, you can like approve it for global distribution and then it'll do it through Amazon and Barnes and Noble and Ingram Spark. I'm a little nervous about that because we will probably get maybe like $1 in royalties if anyone buys it through that. Whereas like we can make at least like half back or something, maybe like $10 if we do it like directly with the way that I've like ordered the printing and stuff. Or the prices rather. But yeah, because it's like expensive as fuck to run a magazine. So any like profit that we make through any of our, our sales or our donations or whatever is like directly circularly back into the magazine. And we're about like broken even right now, which is nice, but like I know I need to make $300 more this year minimum to like afford our website. And so it's like not too hard to come up with that kind of money, but at the same time, it's something that's always running in your head that you need to do. So yeah, supporting the mags is very important and it can be expensive if you follow a lot of lit mags, but hopefully we make ours worth following. So
So, okay, did you use Squarespace for your site?
yeah.
When you did the deal, did you use the student discount?
There was some discount that was like 20% off your first year or something like that. So that is what I did. Because I'm like, I think I was only allowed to get away with this on Spotify for so long after I stopped being a student. But I think
This is
like starting
bullshit. It's
anything
so
new,
bullshit how, like the discounts and how
yeah,
much like just being a student they give you as opposed to not being a student.
Yeah, I feel like you're less worried about money as a student as you are as an adult in the real
Hmm.
world. Like my university paid for my rent and my groceries. Like that's never going to happen again in life. So, I wish we had discounts for other things, but
So what's it gonna cost you? Because I think it's gonna cost me like I think it's like 300 or something.
yeah, something
That's
like
my
that for
concern too.
Squarespace.
I'm like, shit, am I gonna be able to like fucking keep running it after October?
Yeah, I guess if you think about it monthly, like 300 divided by 12 isn't too much. And, we probably spend more than that on coffee every month. So I
Hmm.
guess it sounds like a lot, but it is doable. But yeah, it's stressful to think of like the ongoing costs of starting a literary magazine, but we were able to like break even for all of the things that we spent pretty much. And I think I do maybe have a little bit left over for, if I want to do another print run and try to sell more in bookstores and stuff in Chicago. So, you know, I've had to become not only an editor in chief and a publicist and a manager and a marketing specialist and social media manager and whatever, but also an accountant.
Hmm.
But I guess it's a good skill to have. So we're learning so much.
So when you were doing marketing, how did you go about that?
Um, I kind of just went off of the little bit that I've known. Like I was the social media manager for my English department in school, and so I
For
learned a little bit
real?
doing that.
What did you
Yeah.
do as a social media manager for your school?
We made like Instagram graphics
Oh.
and sort of like tried to engage the community of, prospective and current students and alumni and blah blah blah. We went to like the lit events and would like report about them, stuff like that. So that plus this takes so much time and I need to do more of it, but I have studied the social media pages of other popular lit mags that have like thousands of followers because I'm like, you guys got here somehow. How do I do that? So I've been trying to study them a little bit and
Like
figure it
who?
out, but um Had is a good example. Bullshit Lit is someone that I do really admire. I like Apricity Press's Instagram a lot. Their Instagram is really cute. Um, like some of the really big ones aren't realistic to look at, like Poetry Foundation. Like
Yeah, no.
you guys are popular because of a lot of other reasons.
Hmm.
So it's hard to look at theirs, but
What do you
yeah,
think of Had?
I think they're really cool, but they do like I do find it interesting. With my magazine, I want to include as many different people as possible.
Hmm.
And so I do find it peculiar, I guess, that had does have a lot of like repeat people that are in the magazine all the time. Like a good friend of mine in the lit community has been published there like 11 times. And
Who?
it's because he's incredible. Ben, Neon Pajamas.
Okay.
Um, and it's because literally his work is incredible, to be fair. Like every time I'm looking for a magazine, like say New Delta Review, they were a dream of mine for years. I'm reading their last issue and I'm like, he's in there. And then he's in Had. And then he's in this place and that place. And I keep running into him like a friend at the grocery store. But like one that you're looking up to, like a friend that's buying better groceries than you.
Hmm.
So I am like intrigued at the fact that they accept the same people so many times pretty often. Definitely that's not the majority of the case, but yeah. So it is a little interesting because I'm like, how?
Maybe that's
But
why Burial Magazine they're only doing like once you publish here, you can't publish again.
for like 10 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
It's
have on my
funny.
spreadsheet cannot submit again until 2030 something. 2035, I think.
Maybe that's
Um
because I was wondering why he did that. I'm like, well, I didn't know that about Had. That they're like, I know that people resubmit and re-get in. Now that you say that, it like, yeah, it makes sense.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. So I'm thinking for
Does
mine.
it feel like there's a sorry to interrupt.
Mhm.
It
Oh
does it
no, you're
feel
good. Go ahead.
does it feel like there's a hierarchy or like maybe you can't get in because you haven't published there once?
Mm, I don't think so. Because again, I do think it's like the minority of people that are repeat and had. When you look at the list of how many people there are, most people do only have one or two.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's more so a hierarchy of like, obviously, it's not even a hierarchy though. That's just how lit mags are. But obviously, it's like if your stuff is their style, then like they'll take it. But I feel like that's kind of how most magazines are. Kind of, there are magazines that are a little bit more like tonally diverse, I suppose you could say.
Mhm.
Um, Whereas I feel like a lot of like the style and the structure of ad pieces, they are very similar to me across the board. But yeah, I don't know. Every magazine has its niche. I have
Yeah.
like who I qualify, like what category I qualify each lit mag on my like spreadsheet page that I have. And we've got the canon ones like Paris Review, Poetry Foundation, etc. But I would say that Had is like cult classic. And that's also who I would quantify like Bullshit Lit, I think is cult classic. Only Poems is cult classic.
Can
In
we
vastly
see?
different ways, but
Can we see your Excel sheet?
like see it
Yeah.
or
Can you
like
share it?
yeah, I don't know where it is. Is it
Oh.
here? Oh yes. Okay. I have two different tabs on it because I have all the lit mags that I've saved, and then I have like the ones that I'm submitting to. Is there a way? Do you want me to like share my screen? Is that a thing?
Yeah. I think you can.
I
don't know if
totally can share it. Yeah, share screen. Let me try. Share window. Let me see if I can do it. Can you see my screen?
No, not
Wait,
yet.
hold on.
How do I give
Share
you-
this window. Let me see. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be. Wait, that's my poems. Can you see the screen?
Yeah. Wait.
So this is my list, and you'll notice it's color coded. The ones in blue are Chicago based. The ones in Ireland are green, or I said that backwards. The ones that are blue are Chicago based. The ones that are green are Ireland based. And that's important to me because I'm kind of like between Chicago and Ireland actually. So, you know, I like to keep it close for some of those, but obviously like lit mags all over the world are worth submitting to, obviously. But yeah, I have
Wow.
a alphabetized list. Some of them I haven't finished putting information in. But
Flarf?
most
Is
of
Flarf
them.
around?
Which one?
You said Flarf?
Flare?
Is it? Oh yeah, Flare. Sorry.
Yeah, they're restarting something as of like yesterday. I think they just opened a contest, which is really cool.
Oh, you put like what they're like their about summary in the.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have their about. I have generally when their submissions are, but some of these are out of date. Obviously, I have their what's it called, like location. I have for some of them if they're print or online, and then I have their social media pages, and then who their editor in chiefs are, and their masthead, and their so yeah, very in-depth list.
Are there any
I guess-
magazines that you read and you're like, I want to be friends with like these people?
Like any of them, really. Like I think so many of them are so cool. I'm scrolling through and like I'm more familiar with a lot of these than others, but I do admire like everyone is on this list. This isn't a random list. Like I curated this list specifically because these are magazines that I believe in and that I would love to submit to or, you know, network with or anything of the sort. How do I stop? There we go.
Yeah.
There was like a rabbit hole of sorts when you come back to this screen. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're all great mags.
I like Bruiser magazine. You have on there.
Yeah. One of the people I read with at Dodo Eraser is, I believe, the managing editor of Bruiser. That was cool. I felt like I was among a celebrity because I recognized the mag.
If you just did online, would you release everything at once, or would you do like week to week to week?
I've been considering having an online only portion of the magazine just to like have more work be out there because I do feel like now obviously when you have a print copy and you have, you know, website subscription fees and graphic design subscription fees that are expensive as fuck and all that stuff, you know, like you kind of need to make money somehow. So I feel like having those print copies that I can make money off of easily is a good way to do it. But I do want people to read more work that Sabr Tooth likes as well and that publishes. So I've been thinking of maybe doing like a weekly one piece a week thing or maybe like one piece a month. I don't know. But so difficult to figure out how you want your website to look and all the different bits and bobs of the pages and whatever. So I have not begun to think about what that would look like because that would be a lot of work and a lot of pages of things over time. But
Yeah, true.
considering it.
So, do you not put the pieces online that are in the mag?
Some of them. We have
Okay.
like featured contributors that I'm sharing. I don't know why I started doing it this way. I think because one of our contributors took a picture of their poem in the book and then posted it on Instagram. And I liked that because it looked, you know, like, oh, look, there's a print copy. So I started publishing I started posting on Instagram a picture of their piece in the magazine for each like interview that we have. Because I'm like, if people are going to read the interviews, they're going to want to know what the piece is So I'm trying to make those more accessible. But I think because it took me so many hours and is so expensive to, graphic design the print copy, I'm selling ebooks for like $6. So I guess if people don't want to spend the 20 or 25 to buy like the physical copy, the ebook of it like is available for like the price of a coffee, or honestly cheaper. Sometimes even Dunkin' Donuts, which is like the cheapest of coffees, is like $8 nowadays.
Yeah, Starbucks is like $9-10 for a fucking coffee.
Yeah. So it's cheaper than a coffee to get the whole PDF of the magazine if people want it. So
are you ever gonna do like a book or anthology of pieces of your magazine, like by magazine 5 or 6? Do you have like an idea of when you're going to end? An exit plan?
I have no idea. I would like this to be like, to answer your questions out of order, if I ever didn't want to do Sabr Tooth Tiger anymore, I would be open to like someone else continuing to run it and sort of try to have it be as forever as possible. It would be cool for this magazine even to outlive me, to say 100 years from now, this magazine's been around for 100 years. You know what I mean? Like that would be pretty sick. That's a lofty plan, obviously, and I have no plans to leave it in the near future because we just got started.
Good.
But to be fair, like I can show you, I have a copy right here. Let me just not knock over everything on my desk. But like so this is the copy of issue 1. It's like pretty thick. It's about 130 something pages. Now it's not quite like the Pushcart Prize 700 book anthology, of course.
No. Jesus Christ, yeah.
But yeah, I do think I would just keep each issue contained to itself. Now we do nominate for the Pushcart Prize, but I think in terms of having our own like best of at any point, like maybe you could do like a 10-year anniversary issue of some of your favorites over the years, but like, gosh, that's so long from now, and that would take me so much work. I can't even think about that.
Might have your own team by then. Yeah.
I know, unless it was like reader voted, where like people have known the issue so well that like they can help me pick for me. But yeah, right now it's just these guys contained to themselves. But is the like cover art not so cool? I love the cover art. There's an artist from, I believe he's from the Chicagoland area. He's from Evanston, but he's a good friend of one of our contributors who is one of the few people I reached out to asking to submit to. His name is Faisal Mahideen. I found him on Poetry Foundation, and he is just an incredible person and an incredible poet. And a good friend of his did the art and let us use it for our first issue, which is very exciting. So
we've been going about 90 minutes. I'm going to ask you one more question, and then I'll let you go.
Yeah, sure.
When you were designing the website, were you looking at other websites at the time specifically for design purposes?
Kind of. It's kind of funny because the story of how our website got started, it's a funny story. So one of the people that submitted to us, I won't name names, but they submitted to the wrong magazine. Like the header said For the Disappointed Housewife, but it came into my inbox. But I read the pieces and I was like, this is low-key perfect. I really want this work. So I emailed them back and I was like, hey, I don't think this was meant for us, but like, do you want to submit to us? And then they were like, yeah, sure, keep it. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we eventually accepted the work. And then because we were brand new, and they clearly were experienced in submitting because this was meant for a different magazine, they asked us probably once a month, hey, when's your website going to come up? Yeah. I'm excited for the website. Can't wait to see the website. What are you going to do for the website? And I know it's because they wanted to make sure this is like a legitimate thing, I'm pretty sure. But that was like my big push into being like, we need a website. So yeah, thanks to that person for helping me get on that, because who knows how long it would have taken me otherwise with so many things to do. But yeah, I looked at a lot of Lit Mag's websites for inspiration and stuff. I think Bullshit Lit was a good inspiration. Can't think of any others, but they were a big one. And yeah, so that's how we came to be.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Website-wise.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I can be such a yapper. Hopefully none of my answers were too long-winded, but this was such an interesting conversation.
I think you should do a podcast on like mags or something.
Do you think so? I feel like I can just go on talking forever. Like, I don't know if maybe.
Those are the best hosts.
I guess so. That's true because it gets you a lot of content. I don't know. I'm too self-conscious about the way that I talk. I don't know if I would be able to do it forever
What do
because
you
I'm worried I'm going
mean?
to sound like I'm worried that I sound like ineloquent or something. I don't know.
No.
I put too much pressure on myself. But maybe, who knows? Sabr Tooth Podcast 2027, maybe. I don't know.
These are pretty easy to put up, I feel like. You could just like
Yeah, that's true. Maybe
and
for this year.
do you have any events coming up you want to promote?
Yeah, for anyone that's in Chicago on January 8th, which is next Thursday at the Understudy, myself and Tori from Written on a Napkin are, like I said, doing a generative workshop on the topic of devotion and devotionals, which is cool. And it's coinciding with the opening of our second issue submissions because I think the theme is going to be like something along the lines of like mysticism, pilgrimage, devotion, something very spiritual and cool, whatever that means to people. Obviously, no one needs to be like overtly religious to submit or like have work for it, but like whatever kind of like fits under that umbrella, I'm very curious about. So, workshop on that soon. That's all we have on the horizon for now, but I would love to do like a virtual open mic of sorts for anyone around the world to come and like read their work and like talk about the magazine. I think that'd be really cool. So
Are,
possibly that late January. We'll see.
are you going to go to AWP?
I'm not,
Okay.
but it would be cool if it were closer or something to that. Even if it was
It's going to
closer, I
be
don't
in
know if I
Chicago
would.
next year.
Oh, well, that's cool.
And a lot of
Maybe
people,
then.
some people don't go to AWP, but they go to the events surrounding AWP.
Right. That's interesting.
That's what
Yeah.
I'm doing this year.
That is cool. My cousin actually lives in Baltimore because he goes to he just graduated from Johns Hopkins. So
Ooh.
it is like I kind of thought about it and then I was like, no.
You should go.
Maybe if it's in Chicago someday, I would
Mhm.
consider it, which you said it is, so maybe I will. But yeah, it
I
just seems like
think.
a lot. It seems like a lot. But
Well, you'd have to
yeah,
make sure your event is like has clean air and everything.
I don't know if that's even possible at a place like that because it's so large that like
Well, see,
I feel
it's not
like
the AWP event itself. It's the like places like because like so many indie places they put on readings around the days. People don't go
Mhm.
to the AWP and they just do the events. So if you put on an event around it, it
Oh, and
could
you
be
like say it's like for AWP season and
yeah,
people do
exactly.
it. Huh, possibly. If I am in Chicago still at that time and that happens,
Ooh,
I
do
would
you plan
totally
on
love to do
moving?
that. Like maybe, but
Where?
I can't say
New York.
until it happens. It's possibly actually like I'm trying to hopefully maybe do it for work if they would let me. It's a little unconventional, but like I need a change of pace and there's like a perfect place that I've been thinking of that I want to do it. So like we'll see, but that's what's great about the magazine being international is like no matter
Yeah.
where I am, I could still take submissions. Again, I'm yapping, but yeah. Yeah, this is a great conversation.
Is
Thanks for
it
having me.
is it Minnesota? Okay.
No, absolutely not.
Is it Florida? All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for
It's nowhere anyone would be able to guess.
Ooh, is it outside the US?
I can't give my
Oh,
secrets away.
interesting. Well, I mean, it is an international magazine, so maybe your head's already in that headspace.
Yeah, it would be cool even just to do like an event for the magazine outside of the country. Like that would be so cool. But then I'm worried about like, oh, this American girl is trying to. So I don't know. People are weird
No.
about Americans, so I don't know, but we'll see.
Well, I mean, yeah, America is odd. Well, because some
Yeah,
people, like in other countries, like some people idealize like America and they want to come here and they want to like act like us, and then other people resent that. They have a resentment
yeah.
towards us.
There's
Yeah,
there's a good blend of it, and I think no other country though is perfect. Like I
no,
think every single country has its tragedies and its terrors in one way or another. So I guess I don't know.
I think
It's whatever.
France is pretty cool.
They're cool in some ways and horrible in others, like colonially.
Oh yeah,
And also, man, the Islamophobia problem they have there because of the amount of refugees they get is kind of crazy for how like revolutionary French people have been in the past. But again, that's like a whole nother thing.
yeah.
I could probably have a whole podcast about what I think about France's history. But Yeah, no. Everyone should go read Sabr Tooth Tiger. Buy a copy of it. Print, ideally, but there's also the ebook. So
There you go. Are you gonna have shirts?
I've been thinking about doing merch. I might do a contest or something because I have too much going on to design it myself. But I would like some kind of merch, like a shirt and a tote bag, and maybe a bookmark.
Could
It'd
you
be
do
cool.
masks?
No,
Oh,
unless we did a collaboration with like, well, we're not popular enough for this, but like there's Well Before and there's Kind Masks and there's Breathe Tech and like those kind of brands that have like fun colors and like fun patterns and stuff that are still like protective KN95s and 95s. But like, I don't know if that's even like a collaboration is possible. I mean, that'd be lit, like to have one in like the pattern of the front of the magazine because it's like
yeah.
abstract. Like that'd be kind of crazy. I don't know.
Because it is saber tooth and teeth and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that would be interesting. Now, I do have a friend that makes like mask chains, and it would be cool maybe if we can get one designed with like little fun little charms that are related to the magazine and stuff. I'm having so many thoughts now about merch that I didn't have prior to this conversation. So I'll have to figure that out for issue 2. I would like tote bags as well. Tote bags are very important to the literary community.
Any films that we should check out, or you have in the your
I
making?
would love to make another film in the near future, but everything that I have out now is from 2023 up until sometime last year. Would love for people to check them out. My Vimeo is just Madeline Blair. One of my first film, or my actual first film, because I literally won Best First Film at Chattanooga Film Festival, is a fun little like existential, wild, uh, very like dark movie, The Waiting Room or Eggs in Purgatory. Highly recommend if anyone wants to watch it and rate it positively on Letterboxd because the Chattanooga like audience hated it. And so
They hated it?
Yep, our rating is very low, which is hilarious because the programmers loved it and like gave me a special jury prize, but the audience fucking hated it.
Wow. So you're popular with critics, but not
Yes,
audience. Wow.
which is an interesting way to be. I hope the magazine everyone loves.
Mhm.
But it's different because it's not even really my work. It's like I put together a bunch of other people's work,
Yeah.
which is cool. So
You're
yeah,
archiving.
yeah, collaborative in a different way. I could
Yeah.
go on about like the nature of filmmaking, but that's like for another podcast.
Who's your favorite filmmaker
Mm.
other than yourself?
Well, my most watched filmmaker last year with my Letterboxd year in review was the guy that did the Charlie Brown holiday animations, but
Oh,
like
yeah?
he's not my favorite. I just watched like the Thanksgiving and the Christmas and the New Year's ones because like what else do you do on the holidays?
Who
Do I have a
inspires
favorite
you?
filmmaker? Gosh, like
Who got you
my
into
brain.
filmmaking?
Who got me into filmmaking? Well, the movie was very inspired by Heathers and Beetlejuice.
Wow.
And Dan Waters, the writer of Heathers, actually watched my short film and loved it. So that's crazy.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and his high school friend who also like is on the board of like the Academy Awards and has won Academy Awards for his writing, but Larry Karaszewski, his movies that he writes with Scott Alexander that are about like crazy biopics about like wild people. I think their kind of movies are really cool. So it's fun to like kind of like befriend your idols, so to speak, because it gives you a lot of perspective as to like how people write really inspiring and zany movies. So I love them, but it's a very like particular genre and era that is a little bit like outside of myself. I don't know who I look up to in the filmmaker world in terms of like who I want to be more like. I don't know. So many people. It's like more one-off things than like individuals, you know.
There was someone else I talked to that came from that world that came into the writing world because they had lost the passion for it. I forgot who it was. Something
Lost the passion for filmmaking?
Yeah, for like short
Wow.
films and stuff because they got so dismayed by it.
That's so interesting. That is pretty much how I made my transition as well. It was a very messy time. And
Like
then
what? What do you mean messy?
I don't think I'm allowed to talk about it without people getting very mad at me for
happened?
being honest about it.
Is it too dark?
It's yeah, a little bit. It's a little chaotic, but yeah, I'm very glad that it happened though because then I found the lit scene.
Like I want to go into this. What happened?
Um, the particular like niche of the film community that I was in Chicago was very toxic,
Okay.
um, and just hated me. And there were personal reasons why they hated me that I think are kind of funny in hindsight, and also like professional reasons why they hated me. Because like even though I didn't go to film school and they all did, I was the
Oh.
only one that like got into a real film festival and won awards, and none of them had ever been in a film festival before besides their own that they made themselves.
Hmm.
Um, so I have to imagine part of that is the reason that I was so ostracized. Now, some of it is like probably personal reasons as well, but like I'm so past it now that I'm just happy like where I am, I guess. And I'm gonna make another film in the near future, and it's
That
gonna be
sucks.
fun.
So like this community oust, like,
I left myself, to be honest.
okay.
It got so like just toxic and horrible, and they made me feel so bad about my work, and it just was like such a weird thing that I was like, I can go thrive elsewhere. And I
Hmm.
have.
This
Like,
is common. This is a common thing within like the lit community is like a lot of us have ghosted or not even ghosted, but just like came away from another community that we hated and we found this indie community of writers.
yeah, I think because for the most part, writing is very introspective
Hmm.
and very like empathetic. Whereas filmmaking, even if you're making films that are personally affecting, it's a very narcissistic, ego-driven community, which is funny because you make films with other people
Yeah.
generally,
And you're trying to
but you
connect.
write by yourself.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. But for whatever reason, it's the manner of the difference, I guess, that is just creates very different cultures. So, yeah, but I would love to get back into filmmaking in the near future at some point with yeah, I'm sure there's other filmmakers like me, you know, and other people that want to like start a crew of like a community of people that care and aren't just like at each other's necks, you know?
God, that sounds
Um,
terrible.
yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad, but it
Was
doesn't
that a
even like that
was that
scene
a
doesn't
low
even really
point?
exist anymore anyways. So, yeah, yeah, it was terrible, but it brought me to where I am today. Like I would
Mhm.
not be in the lit scene if it weren't for that. Um, so, you know, I was just in the wrong place for a while.
What's your first camera that you used?
The one that was used in my first film was someone in like the film club at my university who I reached out to because this was supposed to be a play. It wasn't even supposed to be a film. And then the play festival got canceled. And then I was like, well, I've acted before. Let's make it a film. And he had a very nice camera. I don't remember what it was, but it was nice. But the first one I ever used for my own like I did experimental films where I was like the cinematographer and like the creative director and like the editor and stuff like that. Besides my cell phone was the I forget what it's called. It's one of those old cameras that's like on like not DVD, but oh my God, like on tape kind of
Mhm.
from the early 2000s. That was the camera that my mom bought for my like childhood home videos. I don't know if it's like a DV camera or what it is, but I used that for one of my films, and that was really cool. That was the only camera that I've used as like a cinematographer that's not like my phone.
Mhm.
It doesn't work anymore. I think
Oh, damn.
somehow something happened and I need to get it fixed. But
They're
yeah,
so
so that one's
popular
on the
now,
back
you could
burner.
probably buy one.
Yeah, like crowdfund it or something. I don't know. I really want to work more on film, like 35 millimeter, 16 millimeter. I did that once and it was really, really fun. Um, So that would be really cool. And it's very expensive, but I think it'd be worth it. Probably.
Do you think the haters, they were just creating shit that was, like, just like everything else? Like, it was just all the same? And so you came
There's
along,
stuff,
you do something different, and they hate it?
no, their stuff was unique, and I did actually like a lot of their stuff, but I do think it was probably more personal, the reason that they disliked me, than anything, because it just like there were like weird dynamics going on between like the whole crew of people that it just was like I think they just like didn't like me as a person, and therefore my work was like evil to them.
Oh.
Um,
Mhm.
to a point, or maybe they just thought it was bad for whatever reason. But Chattanooga Film Festival liked it, so
Yeah.
what do
They
I care?
they can go fuck themselves, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you could say it. That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to be petty now. I feel like I've grown past that. I like to be a beacon of light, and not care too much about the haters, but I do, it brings you to better places sometimes.
But it
So,
shows that you're resilient, that you went through something.
yeah, it was pretty bad for a while. Like definitely weirdest 2 years of my life in terms of just strangeness. But yeah.
Did you get like suicidal?
Not really. It
Okay.
wasn't like that bad, but it
Okay.
was just like, oh, there was so much that's probably not meant for a podcast unless it's about like a craziest things to happen in your life done by other people podcast.
Did someone cheat on you or something?
You could say that.
Okay. So what
There
was
was there was a
were you dating someone and they turned everyone against you?
it was like I like to call it like my evil broken engagement situationship.
Oh, okay.
It was one of those, yeah.
You were gonna get married and then they
They like talked about it, but I was never actually their girlfriends. I was like, what are you talking about? It was like fully a do, but involving like not more than two people romantically in terms of like a polyamory thing, but in terms of like the absolute like tirade this person went with. It's a whole thing. Film people are crazy.
Yeah. Jeez. It sounded like they needed therapy or something.
Oh, they went to therapy
Oh,
and then
good.
they just weaponized it
Oh,
among their closest peers,
oh, fuck.
I'm sure.
Well, it's
So,
good you got away from those fucking people.
oh yes, 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 yes. It is it's so fun. It's not ever something I've talked about publicly, like candidly, because I got like chastised whenever I would like write a poem about this person and perform it at an event, and they were like, "You can just say whatever you want about me. I don't like that you're writing poetry about me." And I was like, "Well, don't be a shite bag, and then you'll get like good, happy poems." But
Mhm.
that was not the case, and I wrote some of the darkest and most depressing poems ever out of that. But many of them have gotten published.
There you go.
So I win.
I think that's what poetry's for all the
Yeah.
bad shit.
Sometimes poetry needs to have a little bit of spite and a
Yeah.
little bit of betrayal intermingled because it's like the human experience,
Mhm.
like people are going to be shitty to you and then you just write about it. And if they didn't want to be written about, just like don't do shitty things. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And then other people
Yeah,
connect to it too. That's a powerful thing.
exactly. Yeah. And it's not like I named anyone by name. Like, you ever seen the show Girls on HBO?
Yeah.
You know how in the very last season, her best friend gets with her ex-boyfriend and she writes a fucking article in the New York Times about it and names them by name and their photograph is on the article? It's not like I did that,
Yeah.
but I guess it's not illegal to. Like,
No. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. If you want me to take that out, I can. I was just wondering what happened.
oh, I don't know. I don't like being petty anymore. Like, I've grown past it, but it is really funny. It has like been 20 minutes of like shooting the shit about these like shitty people in another community. If it's not relevant, totally take it out.
I might leave it in. I like doing that kind of stuff. I probably deserve
I
it.
feel like I'm good at like tying it back into like, you know what, keep it. They were so mean to me that like, what do I care?
What's the worst thing that happened? You probably broke up with your fiance. It's probably
Definitely not my fiance. Like, he just
Oh.
talked about wanting to marry me. Like,
Oh God.
very different, very different. And then he also talked about wanting to marry two other girls at the same time. So
Jesus, what a crazy whore.
yeah, I think that's the worst thing that happened
Okay.
was that. And then just like the messiness of that, because he also lied to everyone. And it was just like a whack-a-mole of deception, and like emotional manipulation.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but you know what? It's like a growing pain. It's a growing curve,
Mhm.
like you go through weird shit like that and then you come out stronger.
Did this happen during long COVID or before?
My worst symptoms were, this is so funny. My worst symptoms were like all of 2023, right? Because I got it in November 2022 and I was dating my long-term ex who I'd been with about like 9 years at that time. That is actually the reason we broke up towards the end of it, because he was like really cruel to me about it. And
Oh,
I was like, okay, all of the other crazy things and like abusive whatever that you've done in the past, I somehow stayed through all of that. But I was like, you're gonna talk about like me and my health in that way, like I'm literally leaving you forever. And then I did, and I never spoke to him again. So that has been the reason of the end of one of my relationships. But funny enough, I like became a smoker right after that. And then I was a smoker for 2 years, which is the stupidest thing. Like, do not become a smoker if you aren't already. Like, fucking idiot of me. But I quit as of like 3 months ago. So, you know.
People need their vices, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Thankfully, miraculously, it did not make my lung problems worse. Not that I like noticed anyway. So,
Did it
I
help,
kind of
like
no,
mentally? Like
no.
you needed that fix?
It was like all around pretty bad.
Okay.
And I'm so happy that I went from like being a pack a day smoker to just quitting
A
cold turkey.
pack a day? That must have been costly.
Yeah. Yeah, it was bad. But
Did
then I
you
quit cold turkey. So
did you know that I bet that was hard.
honestly, no. I
Really?
didn't it wasn't even really my like I'd known I wanted to quit for a while. See, I can yap forever. Oh my God. But I
What
knew
was
that I
your
wanted to quit for a
what was
while
your
and then
brand of
I
choice?
yeah, Newport 100s usually. Yeah, but I stayed up too late writing a poem one night, and then I slept pretty much all the next day because there was a deadline for a contest I was submitting to, and then I slept all the next day, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to smoke a cigarette today. It's going to keep me up too long if I smoke it now for the first time at 9 p.m. And then I just went my first full day without smoking in quite a long time, and then you know, it stick, and then I don't even want it anymore. I'm like, ew. So the like cool poet with a cigarette aesthetic is out for 2026.
How long do those keep you up? One cigarette?
Well, see, I would chain smoke and then I'd be up till like 4 a.m. So
Jeez. So you have to go
yeah.
to another one? After
What do you mean?
you smoke one, you have to go to another one immediately?
Usually, yeah. It like snowballed. I used to say when I first became a smoker, I'm never gonna smoke if it's like myself lighting the lighter. Like I'll only smoke if someone else lights it for me. Obviously, that like soon became, oh, I'll just light it myself. No one's around me type thing. So yeah, none of the boundaries work unless you're just like, I'm not gonna smoke cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't, and
Good for you.
it's been a lot better. Like I was hardly writing all of like most of last year until the end of the year when I quit because I was like, I need to use my mental acuity, and this is preventing a lot of important things that I need to do because all I would fucking do is like smoke and then like read and then yeah.
Who would you read?
It was a different poetry collection every day because I bought so many over the years that I was just like,
good for you.
yeah, I had a lot of time because I was, it took me a while to get my first full-time job. And then I did, and then I was like, well, I don't have time for books anymore. So now I read at a snail's pace, but I'm reading Dubliners by James Joyce right now, and it's great.
Were you afraid of not getting a job?
It like came out of nowhere, which is funny. I was applying to a lot of places, and then someone reached out to me and they wanted to hire me, and I was like, is this a scam? They're like, no, and it wasn't. Thank God it wasn't.
All right, I think I'll let you go. I've been keeping you around too long.
Oh no, you're good, yeah. But feel free to keep or omit whatever of that last like 30 minutes as you want.
I think that's some of the best stuff.